I mean, I'm a stand-up comedian. I had 2 full-blown panic attacks on stage in front of a crowd of my fans. And this is something that people that don't understand it would maybe not know is possible. Like, I managed to hide it well enough. Basically, I planted myself to the microphone stand and just stood there like a statue and powered through the rest of the material. But I'm inside, full-blown panic attack. As soon as I get off the stage and get back there, it's like,
Welcome to the Terri Cole Show. You guys, I'm kind of still fangirling. Let's just be honest. So I just had this great interview with Trae Crowder, who is a comedian that I love. And I'm a big comedy gal. And I've been saying for years, I'm going to start getting the comedians I love on the show. And then, there's always something else that I do, which is not that well. Trae is the first one that I'm getting on the show. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then you're going to listen to this fascinating interview from the mind of a comedy genius. So Trae Crowder, and it's Trae, T-R-A-E, Crowder, C-R-O-W-D-E-R, first gained international attention and notoriety, depending on your politics, in 2016 for his hugely viral series of liberal redneck comedic porch rant videos. So this is part of the beginning. That was the beginning of me seeing him. He's since written, the Liberal Redneck Manifesto. He's got books. He's doing comedy tours. So in the years since 2016, he's become more and more popular. And now I really love his Instagram stuff, where he's sitting in his Jeep, just ranting. It's just ranting, but it's smart ranting. It's informed ranting, and I find him incredibly funny. So I was super psyched. I just randomly slipped into his DMs on Instagram being like, hello, I love you. Please come on my show. And he was like, a couple of weeks later, he's like, oh my God, I'm sorry I missed this. So I was super psyched. I really hope that you enjoy this interview with Trae Crowder as much as I really enjoyed doing it. And you guys in the show notes or all the information, do follow him. I think that you're going to love him. Anyway, enjoy the show. Hi, Trae Crowder.
Hello. How's it going?
Great. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Terri Cole Show. I just accosted you on IG. I was telling the audience on the upfront, I literally just wrote you a love note. I heart you. Please come on my show. And here you are.
And here I am. Yeah. Shoot your shot. Glad to do it. And I appreciate the heart emoji, by the way.
Why, you're welcome. All right. So I love to start with, if you were, let's say, a Marvel movie character, like everyone has an origin story. You do what you do for reasons. I do what I do for reasons. Mm-hmm. So what would you say? Like, what happened in your life that got you here to where you are, what you're doing right now in your life?
Oh, man, I could spend the whole 30 minutes on this probably because I tend to ramble and everything, but I'll try to be somewhat concise. I'm from a very small town in Tennessee called Salina. There's no traffic lights or McDonald's. It's very rural. When I was growing up there in the 90s, I was born in 86. In the early to mid-90s, throughout the 90s, my dad owned the video store in town, which was a converted single-wide trailer called Crowder's Video, and I was in there every day, every night, and loved that. So that's what got me interested in like show business, and that crystallized as comedy specifically when I was about 12, when me and my dad watched Chris Rock's Bigger and Blacker together. And he was really cracking up at the stuff, the whole bit about, all daddy gets is the big piece of chicken and whatnot, because my dad was a single father raising me and my sister, because my mom wasn't really around much because she had gotten wrapped up in the opioid crisis. In a grander scope. The whole town, my gay uncle and his partner, they owned a deli on the town square. On the other side of the town square, my maternal grandmother had a little country diner. My grandfather had a car lot and a auto body shop. And the center of the town was a big clothing factory, Oshkosh Bagosh factory. And then in the mid-90s, after NAFTA, that factory left. And at the exact same time, Oxycontin became a thing. So I always say, the jobs left forever and the pills showed up for good at the exact same moment in time in the mid-90s. And it just devastated my whole town and my family. My mom got wrapped up in it. Parents were divorced. All those businesses closed. It just got lost multiple family members to the opioid crisis and all that stuff. And so that informed a lot of who I am, obviously. And I mentioned my gay uncle. I was raised mostly by my dad. My gay Uncle Tim was his own. My dad passed away years ago from pancreatic cancer. My gay Uncle Tim was my dad's only sibling, his little brother, so they were very close. So I was very close with my uncle my whole life. I still am close with him. He's still kicking. I've always assumed because of that, my dad didn't have us going to church because it's like Southern Baptist, Church of Christ type Christianity, very, very homophobic. So I didn't grow up in church at all. My dad was very open-minded. I assume also because of his gay brother. They both were Democrats. And so that's where the political part of it comes for me. I was kind of just raised to be, my dad was into like, David Bowie and weird movies and shit like that, and was just like an open-minded, long-haired type guy. And so I grew up in that place in the midst of that storm of things happening, wanting to do some Hollywood shit, comedy specifically. And I was always kind of left leaning basically because of the way I was raised and my relationship with my uncle and my absence from the church. And all that coalesces, I think, into who I am now and what I do now, I think.
So being a liberal redneck.
Yes, exactly. That's the liberal
As you
redneck
like to
origin
say.
story. Yes.
I love it. So for you in childhood, right? Like when did you sort of realize that being funny could either get you out of trouble maybe, or maybe get you into trouble? Like, do you have any pivotal moments where you're like, oh, this is something I can do?
I mean, I don't remember any like specific lines or moment. I was always kind of funny in school, I think. I mean, as long as I can remember, like other class. I was also the smart kid in my school. Like I made really good grades and everything. And, I remember people telling me, classmates and stuff, periodically when we were in school and stuff, I'd say something and they would be like, that's funny. You should be a comedian. Trey should be a comedian, shouldn't he? That type of thing. So I was always kind of funny, and it was a defense mechanism. It wasn't because of like the strife at home or any of that, because like I said, the whole community was torn apart. So all of my friends were going through similar shit. So it wasn't any of that. It was mostly that I'm from a small southern town, and I did play football and stuff, but like basically all the the popular boys and everything were just like the best athletes and shit, and I was never the best athlete. So I was, again, smart. I was smart, kind of nerdy, bookish, and so the humor was kind of my way to ingratiate myself to those dudes. A lot of my best friends were those guys, and because they copied off my homework and I made them laugh and stuff. So it was sort of a social defense mechanism still, but I can't remember like one moment that where I said something and it really killed or anything. I don't remember. It was kind of just ever present, but I wasn't like a class clown type either. Like I said, I was a good student. So this was all like outside the classroom.
All right. So walk us through a little bit of like, you started, you actually worked in a real job. You worked in the energy department after college, right?
Yes.
Not that comedy's not a real job, but we would call it a straight job.
Yes.
And then you started, was it like 2010 when you started sort of getting into doing stuff? Like walk us through a little bit, because I know that there was sort of this explosion. I mean, there was a pivot moment. So would you share with us like what happened?
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to be a comedian since I was like 12, but I was also in the middle of nowhere. And even when I went to college, I did go to college because it was never a question in my family. It's like, I was the first person from my family to graduate college. And it was never a question that I was going to go, and I did. But even when I went to college, I went to Tennessee Tech University in Cookeville, Tennessee, which is like, I thought, to me, it was a big city, but really it's not. Really, it's a small town too, and it's like 40 miles away from where I grew up. It's like the town that people in my hometown would like, if you wanted to go see a movie or go eat at Red Lobster for somebody's birthday or go like shopping at J.C. Penney or something, you drove to Cookeville. And I went to college there. But there was no comedy club. There still isn't any kind of comedy club or anything in Cookeville. There was no like bars that did even open mics, like even music open mics or nothing when I was in college. That whole time I knew I wanted to do it. And I could have just driven up the road to Nashville or Knoxville, but it's just it just didn't occur to me then and at that age. And I don't know why. I got out of college. I got a job with the U.S. Department of Energy in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is right outside of Knoxville. So I moved to Knoxville in 2010, and they had a comedy club there called Side Splitters. And I was like, well, it's kind of, it's now, you've always said you wanted to do this.
Right.
No excuses anymore. so I just signed up for an open mic and just went and then just kept going. And there's no real secret to that. That's just how you do it. You just show up finally and then just do it and then just keep doing it. And I started that in 2010. Kept doing it. Went pretty well, pretty quickly, like relatively speaking, meaning like I was in Knoxville, not exactly a hotbed of comedy, but like around the neighboring cities, Atlanta, Asheville, Nashville, Chattanooga, like, you know, I was doing like pretty well, you know, like I had a pretty good reputation and amongst the other in the scene down there and that type of thing. And I was going to festivals. I had come to LA and I had gotten a manager in Los Angeles. In 2015, I got into NBC has a talent, or at least had a talent development program that I got into from while living in Knoxville. So it was going fine, but I still lived in Knoxville because also, by the way, I was married and had 2 children already. We had our first son was born when I was 25, right in the midst of all this. And,
right. So you met Katie bartending in Cooks?
In Cookeville.
In wherever? Cookeville?
Yes.
Right on.
Yeah, we worked at the same bar, same New Orleans themed bar and grill called Crawdaddy's in Cookeville. Yeah, and then so we moved to Knoxville. We had the boys, and I was doing all this, and it was going good. But I had a family and lived in Knoxville. But I still was feeling generally pretty okay about it, especially that NBC thing. At the time, this was naive and silly, but at the time I was like, my foot's in the door now. It's not really how that works. I know now, but at the time I thought that's what it meant. So I was feeling pretty good about it, the way things were going. So now we're up to 2016, and I started doing those liberal redneck videos, and the second one of those I made went like crazy viral. At the time, Facebook was still the primary social media platform in 2016. So it happened mostly on Facebook, but also on Twitter a little bit, and it got past her. It was like genuinely viral. Like for a minute, like I was just everywhere briefly, and I got like a book deal and a TV deal, and I started touring as a headlining stand-up comedian. Started selling tickets. All that happened as a result of that one thing. Like my life literally changed overnight. I quit the day job, wrote the book. We moved to LA. Tried to make I've had 4 or 5 different TV shows over the years that that I've sold and written scripts for, but that didn't go the distance, which is very common tale. But that 2016 was like the turning point, and I've just been I call it pushing that boulder. Been pushing that boulder ever since,
Yeah. Okay, so that's a lot of stuff that has happened. So you're really a writer too, not just writing your own stuff. You're really a writer. You're an author, and you've been writing television.
Yeah, well, even just the stand-up part, I've got a buddy of mine, a British comedian named Matt Kirshen. He's the person I heard say this. He said this to me at the Comedy Store one night, but I don't know if he made it up or not. He might have heard it from someone else. Mm-hmm. But he said that every comedian is either a performer who has to learn how to write, or a writer who has to learn how to perform. And I've no question about it. I've always considered myself the latter. Like I'm like a writer type of comedian. Like, I mean, I'm not a bad performer, but I'm not like, it's not like some Cat Williams stuff. I'm not super high energy. Like the humor mostly comes from the lines and the jokes and the things that I write, as opposed to like, the delivery, although again, don't get me wrong, my delivery's fine. The accent helps a lot, and that's an element of performance. So,
but also that's why your stuff in your car works so well, because it really is about what you're saying is the thing that is the hook. It's less about, because you do have other comedians who have a different relationship to sort of big physical humor, and the way that you do the car stuff, I think, works great. That's how I actually first got turned on to your work. Was just I was like, who is this guy speaking my language? So funny, so smart, so fast, and I just became hooked. After that, what you're saying about being a writer who needed to sort of learn how to perform reminds me a little bit of Neil Brennan. If you think about, right, his background was, television writing and all this stuff with, I was going to say
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle, exactly. And I've watched his trajectory over in the way of performing, getting better and better over the years. I also, I like this year. I think he's very smart,
Oh, Neil's great. He's one of the best as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Again, though, but it would make sense because your humor is also very smart. And I think that, you recognize it sort of in other people, but your humor is also controversial in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
because of where you're from. So tell me about that. Is there a conflict in that for you? I mean, obviously the juxtaposition of just calling yourself the redneck liberal,
Hmm.
right? Where obviously that's the joke. At least that's part of the joke, but it's true. So
Right.
what do you who are your fans? I mean,
Well, who am I? There is definitely some conflict. It's mostly just that it's not that it's like you said. I think there are people who think that that it's a gimmick. The whole liberal redneck thing. It is objectively speaking, it's a gimmick. But people, I think sometimes they think that it's like contrived, and it's not. That bothered because it literally is just it just describes me as a person. Like it's very authentic. It's just what I am is a gimmick, right? And it's like, well, I can't help that. So that bothers me somewhat. And then also like the whole, I didn't, that early stage when I was doing stand up, I talked about the same types of things. I would do bits making fun of the Bible or making fun of homophobia. I do things that were pro-gay, or I had a big pro-choice bit that I used to do. And I was doing all this in the Deep South. And it was like, I did that type of thing, but I never considered myself a political comedian because I talked about all kinds of other stuff too. And I still do. So it's like,
right.
I just, so I don't, that also is hard. I think sometimes also people think that it's literally just like, lefty talking points couched humorously or something the whole time as far as the stand up goes. And that's not it. Like I'm a stand up comedian and that's kind of my angle or whatever. And I do cover that, but I talk about plenty of other stuff too. So that's sort of to answer your first part about the conflict of all that. But and I mean, yeah, I'm, to a lot of people, like in my hometown, I'm straight up a pariah, but I'm kind of fine with that. I never really fit in that great there anyway. But who are my fans? They're, it's unsurprising. It's either like, I would say it's not just Southern or like, usually it's like rural liberals or rural Democrats in whatever state, because a lot of people may not realize any state in this country, if you're in the rural part of it, it's pretty, rednecky or however you want to put it. And it's like, it's deep red almost everywhere. And so it's people who are from places like that, but who are aligned with me politically and who are like, really relate to it all. And then it's also just like, regular, people on the left too, liberals, progressives, whatever. So like I do great in Portland, or San Francisco. And so those are like coastal liberals. There's not a lot of, I mean, at those shows, there will be transplants, people who grew up in rural Nebraska who live there now. But so it's that type of thing. My best markets are generally either like some of the more metropolitan, like southern cities, or the big like coastal liberal strongholds. Or I guess not just like Denver, Minneapolis, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, those places.
It's very heartening, though, for me. It's very, like, uplifting that there's a lot of people who like your humor. Because to me, it's more of, like, at least my experience of it is, it's very funny, but you're a humanist, right? You're a humanist. You're, like, a decent person. It'll make sense. But it makes kind of sense to me. I wanted to talk about, before we went live, we were talking a little bit about anxiety. Yeah. And I wanted to just talk about what has your experience been in your life with anxiety?
Oh, it was weird. It's weird, or I don't know how weird it is, actually. Maybe you can tell me. I don't know how common or uncommon it is, but from my perspective, it was weird because I had really no experience with anxiety my whole life until relatively very recently. In fact, I obviously know a lot of people. My wife has some issues with anxiety. I have good, close friends who have it, and I always thought, in my head, I was like, okay, so that just, when they say they're having anxiety, that just means like, oh, they're real nervous about something. I would get nervous. I get butterflies in my stomach for various reasons. Sure. And I was always like, yeah, but that's natural. That happens. So when people say they have anxiety, they're just super nervous. It's just what I assumed. I didn't understand at all what it like really means or what it really can mean until I think it was 2023. So we're just talking like at the beginning of 2023. So about 2.5 years ago. I think I've got that right. I mean, out of nowhere, out of the clear blue sky. Well, I say clear blue sky. At the time, I was cleaning out to sell my childhood home that I grew up in because my Mima had gotten dementia and gone into a nursing home, and I had all this other like professional stuff. So like, I had a lot going on, and it was definitely very stressful. So that's probably what it was. But from my perspective, just out of nowhere, just one day, I just had basically like a panic attack and didn't know what it was. Because I thought, for me, the way they manifest primarily is like I like shake, like violently shake, you know. And I thought, because I never had any issues with anxiety, I thought that I was like, oh my God, I've got like a neurological disorder, you know, like I have something wrong. Neurologically speaking, with my nervous system, and because it was so physical, like that's what I'm saying is the part that I didn't realize how like violently physical it can be. I thought it was a mental thing. It's like, so I started going to my doctor and also to therapy and stuff, and like it was really, really, really disruptive at first because it was like. I mean, I'm a stand-up comedian. I ended up I had 2 full-blown panic attacks on stage in front of a crowd of my fans. But like, and this is something that people that don't understand it would maybe not know is possible. Like, I managed to hide it well enough. Basically, I like planted myself to the microphone stand and just stood there like a statue and powered through the rest of the material. But I'm inside full-blown panic attack. As soon as I get off the stage and get back there, it's like, just the whole thing. I ended up having 2 of them, but I was worried about that all the time. I'd have more minor simmering anxiety, before show. Every show for a while there when this first started. Yeah. None of them were ever fun at the beginning of this. I only ever survived them. Like I only ever was relieved that I made it through the show without having a panic attack, and it was really bad. And I started like throwing everything at it that I could, including, and I always say, I'm going to be very, very fair, I'm not saying definitively that this is what did it. I'm not going to give it that credit necessarily. I'm just saying this is what ultimately happened. It could be complete coincidence, could be placebo effect, whatever. But eventually it got to the point where I tried like prescribed ketamine therapy, right? And that I went through 2 rounds of that, and it seemed to be helping. And then at the end of the second round, like it basically every now and then I'll still have a little, like it'll creep up on me a little bit, but it's like it's been infinitely better ever since then. So like it's not like I'm never going to say it's like cured. I'm always kind of worried about it like coming back in full force. And every now and then it flirts with me to a certain extent. I'll feel it a little bit, but generally it's now under control pretty well. And ever since that. And so that's pretty much what happened. But during that period between when it first started and when I finally got it somewhat under control, which was about a year, I think, maybe 18 months, something like that. Like it was a hellish experience because it's like I said, it impacted everything I did, and the nature of what I do. I was like, it's not like if I still worked in an office, I had a panic attack, I'd close my office door or whatever, do breathing exercises till I get through it. But what if I'm on TV? What if I'm taping something for TV or I'm on like I can't have that, and the thing that sucks, one of the things that sucks the most about anxiety is that it can be self-perpetuating. When you think thinking, you have anxiety about having anxiety. So thinking about those things could trigger the thing itself, the very thing that I was worried about. And I was very conscious of that.
Anticipatory anxiety about getting an anxiety attack.
Exactly. Yes. Which can then lead to a full-blown anxiety attack.
Yes, indeed it can.
Yeah.
But I love that you tried the ketamine. And it's funny, speaking of Neil Brennan, because he's also done, I mean, he talks very openly about
psychedelics.
And things that did or didn't help him, because he had treatment-resistant depression for decades, basically. He talks about in both of his specials. Anyway, I think that your instincts, that there was so much going on for you leading up to, because you're talking about 2 things. Even though 2016 is when things sort of pivoted for you to a degree, you're still talking about a new life, Trae. You're still talking about having so much energy and eyes, even though it's great and it's what you want, right? These things can also create a certain level of anxiety. And then the end of an era with your Mima, the end of having to sell the house, like those are all emotionally charged experiences.
Right.
And it's like if you had just this set of things to deal with at that time.
Right.
You might not have hit that tipping point, but you had this set, and then you had this set, and then you had this set. So it was like this convergence of so many things happening at one time. And sometimes your body just goes, hey, that's too much. Like,
right.
I can't deal. But the fact that you got out of, because what you described, and you described it so vividly, the cycle that we get into when we first experience anxiety. And you're not alone, especially because the world has changed so much. And because of another thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the anxiety is that what you talk about, what your comedy is about, what your videos are about, what your YouTube life is about, all the things that you do, you're like facing some super unpleasant stuff, right? It's not just, making fun of, seeing the humor in things. You're also, because at least now a lot of your stuff is political, you're looking at like some scary shit that is happening too. So I feel like all of that can come together to create a perfect shitstorm to start having anxiety. But it sounds like since the ketamine, and you haven't repeated it, you only did in 2 rounds. Does that mean did it 2 times or 2 sets of?
2 sets of, and I can't remember. I think it was like 4 sessions each, or maybe 6 sessions each. I can't remember exactly, but it was 2 sets of those back to back. So it was like 2 months total or something. Yep. But that's been, like I said, a year and a half ago or something like that at this point. And I will still have like it. Something can happen when we had all these fires out here in LA, and like they sent out a mistaken evacuation order that I got on my phone, and that like I was totally fine. Then that happened, and immediately, and I didn't have a full blown panic attack, but that like all of a sudden, oh shit, anxiety, like actual anxiety. So things can still like trigger it. It's just that it's like nowhere it's so much more manageable now, and it's nowhere near as like intense as it was during that first period and like pre-ketamine and stuff. Because I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like I never understood, like when people talk about anxiety, it's like it's like at least it can be like, I mean, debilitating. Like,
absolutely.
And I did not realize that until I dealt with it myself. And that's how it was for a while. And now it's like I can manage it at least. And most of the time I'm like anxiety free, and it's not an issue at all. But,
Yep. So how much for what you do now, you need to be informed, right? Because a lot of your stuff is about what's happening. It's topical. But how much do you indulge in the 24-hour news cycle?
I try to keep general tabs on sort of what's going on. I'm in a group chat with some friends of mine, and including one of the guys is the guy that co-hosts my political podcast with me, and he's insanely plugged in, like to a degree that it's probably almost certainly not good for him. But he just is. He's very well informed and very well read. He stays on top of it, and he kind of keeps the rest of us surprised. I host that show with him, and I do my rants and stuff. So I definitely I keep tabs on things. I check in whenever there's some new like big thing happens, then I will read up on it. But I'm definitely not like I'm not doom scrolling all the time.
Great.
Is what I'm saying. Like I don't do that. I try to keep up because I think it's important to keep up on it. Keep your finger somewhat on the pulse, but it's not like an obsession for me. I'm not on there all the time.
I also think there's something really important, and this is for everyone. I'm always talking about like we have to police what comes in. Like I like to read news so that I'm not, or watch you, but literally so I'm not being sort of inundated with images that I won't be able to get out of my mind ever, right?
Yeah,
And they just want to keep repeating it. So I think there's lots of ways that we can sort of protect ourselves. But for you, from the point of view of comedy, or from any inspiration, but I would say who have been your comedy sort of inspiration? Are there people whose work informed your work or inspired your work?
I mean, the definite most obvious one, I kind of alluded to it briefly earlier during the origin story, is definitely Chris Rock. He's always will be my all-time favorite, I think, because it's like I said, just I've heard a lot of comedians on a lot of podcasts have a similar story to this, where it's like what made them want to do comedy. They like literally saw their dad cracking up at something funny, either something in a movie or something a comedian said. And that's exactly what happened for me with Chris Rock. I was 12 when Bigger and Blacker came out, living with a single dad. He does this whole thing in that special about how everybody always talks about mama and single moms, but, you know, there's some dads handling their business too. And he goes into this whole thing about nobody gives a fuck about single dads and shit. But he's making jokes the whole time. And, I mean, it was just killing my dad. I mean, he was just loving it. And that was like, I already knew I wanted to do show business because growing up in his video store, but that was the moment where it crystallizes comedy specifically. So Chris Rock's literally the person who inspired me to do it. And I do think that I've taken things from him, and he'll always be my number one. Outside of him, I think I only realized this in recent years. Also, another huge favorite of my dad's, and this one might be kind of surprising if people have kept up with him, especially since 9/11. But I think that an undeniable source of inspiration for me stylistically is Dennis Miller, actually. My dad was a big Dennis Miller fan back. You know, Dennis Miller's the way that COVID kind of sort of seemingly broke the brains of a lot of people and like flipped, you know, like Joe Rogan during COVID went hard, right? When it happened before. Yep. That also happened during 9/11, and Dennis Miller kind of was one of those that pre 9/11 was a different guy, and after 9/11 he went further to the right. Well, I grew up watching his HBO show and shit with my dad in the 90s, and he was a big fan, or my dad was a big fan of his, and I never even thought about it like that until relatively recently, but it's definitely, I mean, if you think about Dennis Miller and the way he operates, where he's like, I mean, he's verbose, he goes on rants, he's like, you know, he utilizes language a lot, big words, he's careful with his word choices, it definitely comes across as smart, so I think like it wouldn't be too far off at times to describe me. It's kind of sort of a hillbilly-ish Dennis Miller sometimes, you know, with some of the stuff that I'm doing. So, I mean, those are, but plenty of other, I mean, so many other comedians. I was a comedy nerd too, like from 12 on. I mean, I'm a big fan also outside just being a comic. So, there's a lot of other ones too, but those are the first two that come to mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I feel like since 2016, I'd say, I've always liked stand-up, but I became really committed to having stand-up comedy in my life because I just needed to not be looking at the 24-hour news cycle and thinking that there's such a gift in for me, in being able to watch smart comedians and to just laugh. And you know, it's interesting how there's a barometer. I feel like I can tell a lot about someone when they tell me whose comedy they like. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Where you're like, that's interesting. And so I have a whole list of people that I really like. But moving into the comic brain, I feel like there's something happens in life, you know, and you've already shared with us, you know, sort of what happened for you that makes someone go, I can do this. I'm going to do this. It's like, in one way, I always look in awe at comedians because it's so scary to be like, I think I'm going to make you laugh. I'm going to try to make you laugh. I guess we'll find out. What happens for you if you have an unfriendly audience or if you bomb? I mean, do you? Oh,
yeah. I mean, I think I think any comedian says, I don't care how long they've been doing it, says that they never, ever bomb anymore, I think it's to some extent full of shit. I mean, maybe if they're like massive and they're doing only their own shows in front of people who love them like all the time, but even then, I mean, you can lose every comedian just about loves that documentary Comedian that followed Jerry Seinfeld from the early 2000s, Jerry Seinfeld and Orny Adams, and part of that whole thing is like he was a massive, even, you know, the show had ended, he was huge, he was as big as it got, and he took a couple years off and he's coming back to stand up for the first time, and he's going up in front of these crowds, and it's like, you know, either Colin Quinn or somebody that thing says, it's like, you know, yeah, if you're famous and whatnot, and they know you, they'll give you 2-3 minutes of grace. It's like, but if you're not funny, like, they'll let you know. And like Jerry like bombs in that movie, so of course I bombed. And it's, you know, I mean, look, it sucks. I don't like it. You know,
yeah.
I've known comics who like almost take a perverse joy in it. Sometimes they kind of like pissing a crowd off. I'm not like that. I mean, I want it to go well, but I don't. I've been doing it long enough, and I've bombed plenty enough times now that it's like I also don't. It doesn't really. No real long term effects because I just know that it happens. It's all in the game, and it is what it is. It's annoying, but just whatever. Pick yourself up, do the next one. Yeah.
So share a little bit, if you would, before we got to go, your process of how do you come up with new material? Do you work it out in certain places? Do you try it out on someone? Do you talk to your wife about it? Like, what do you do?
There's also there's kind of a divide between comedians. I mean, it's not a divide because it's not like the two sides don't like each other, but basically they say you either write from home or you write from the stage, and I definitely write from home. And so people that write from the stage, I see a ton of this in LA. It's just never been my thing. I can't see myself ever doing it. They have the nugget of a very small idea for a thing that they think might be funny. You know what I mean? And then they'll just go up on stage somewhere in LA and they'll just start talking about it, right? With no plan at all. And almost always that when they first do that, it's not great. They've never thought about it before. So they'll find a couple of like punchlines maybe, and then they'll remember, they record themselves, they watch it back like, okay, that was funny. I'll keep that. The rest of that I'll cut out. But they go through this whole process in front of a crowd, and it's very vital to them to do it that way. Like Mark Maron's example, I know that's exactly how he operates, and he's obviously great. Me, when I get up on stage, I'm bringing something up there. It might be brand new, and it may bomb miserably. It may not go well at all. You may not like it, but I've thought about it. Like I write it ahead of time. I say write. As I get older, I am now starting to write more out physically. Used to, I never did that. I just kept a bullet point list of ideas that I had in my head. But as I'm getting older, and I've written so much over the years, I can't keep that in there anymore. So I will kind of write it out. But the process, I have a general idea. It could be inspired by anything, God only, just my day-to-day life, something I saw, whatever, an idea for what might be a premise. I come out here. I'm in like my office at my house right now. I come out here and I do what those comics do, just not in front of anyone. I start talking my way through it. And I mean literally out loud talking as though I'm on stage, but I'm alone. I'm not ruining anyone's night with it. I'm just talking out loud, and then and then I'll go back. I'll get to where I think is sort of the end of it, and I'll circle back to the beginning, and I'll go through it again, and I'll take out all the stuff that I know wasn't funny or was pointless. Try to find some other jokes on the way, and I'll go back, and I just do that until it's sort of it's been honed into something resembling a comedy bit, and then I will then try that in front of an actual audience, and then go from there. If if this part works and this part doesn't, okay, I'll take that out and try something else. If none of it works, I might try it one or two more times. If it never works, then I was wrong and it's done.
Yep.
And then just kind of go from there. But that's sort of my general process. That's how I do the videos too, the internet videos, same way, except I don't try them out in front of a crowd because, the nature of what they are. But I sit right here and just talk my way through them out loud until I kind of land on what I think it should be. And then I get off book, I do it a couple times, memorize it, and then I just go out there, sit in the Jeep and turn the camera on and do it.
I love it. Your stuff is so, and we'll you guys listening, we'll link, to favorite stuff in the notes. But there's a density to the videos that you do in the Jeep, where it's like sometimes I have to stop and like go back because I'm like, wait, I just missed something, and I think it's important. Keep going. So I love it. All right, I have a question for you that's non sequitur, but I'm obsessed with boundaries, so I just ask everyone this question. Personally, what has been your most challenging boundary struggle, and how did you overcome it if you have?
Yeah, I know. I was aware of this question. So when you say boundary struggle, you mean like something that, I don't know. Can you help me with that a little bit?
Yeah, like a boundary struggle would be not being able to say no to your family. That your family of origin is always in trouble or needs money or whatever, or overcommitting to things, saying yes when you want to say no, like that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now that I know exactly what you're at, I think it's definitely that I'm too much of a people pleaser to the point of being a bit of a doormat. I have a lot of trouble saying no. Like even things I just know I shouldn't do, or I know it's a bad idea. Like I'll just say yes, and then later be like, why did I say yes to that? And then, and so that's definitely the main thing. I need to get better about just not being so much of a people pleaser, pretty much. And no, I've not remotely overcame it. Like not even a little bit. It's still very actively ongoing, for sure.
Can I please send you my first book called Boundary Boss?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
so I'll get your address because trust me, you can definitely get better. But it's something that I feel like with boundaries, there's not one person I've ever had on the show that's like, oh no, never had a problem with that. Like there's a universal experience of people not being taught how to do it. So it sort
Right.
of makes sense that you would have that experience. Tell us or tell me, what are you lit up about right now? Like what is are you like amped about in life?
Do you mean specifically in a good way? Like that I'm
Yes.
like excited about?
Yes.
Because I'm mostly filled with dread. But I'm currently putting a new hour of stand up together, and that's generally always the most exciting part of the process. I think most comedians would agree. It's fun because it's like, it's new, when you record something, you've been doing it for a bit, and it's hopefully polished and honed, and you know it, and whatever. And then you start completely over. And when you're a headliner, you got to have an hour out, and it's like exhilarating and everything. And it's also, it's just fun. And so I'm knee deep in that right now, and it's been going pretty well. So that's the main thing that's got me excited. But then other than that, I'm always, always working on other little things, just TV shows to pitch and that type of stuff too. Like I said, pushing that boulder. But yeah, the main thing that's got me amped right now is trying to figure out what this next hour is going to be exactly.
Well, Trash Daddy was great, and you guys can watch that right now. Trash Daddy, your special is out right
Yep.
now on YouTube on 800 Pound Gorilla Media. We'll put all the links to this in the show notes.
Great.
I wanted to just say how much I appreciate what you do and the way that you do it, and I'm so psyched that you came on the show. And just please, Trey, keep doing what you're doing. Like, we really need, whether, I know it fills you with dread, but it actually fills us with hope. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Where can
Okay.
people find you online, my friend?
It's pretty much all just under my name, which is spelled wrong. Trae Crowder, TreyCrowder.com is the site with all the tour dates and the link to the special and everything. And also whatever pick your poison, whatever your chosen social media vice is, if you have one, if you just look up my name on there, I'm on there. I promise you. So just under my name is how you should find it all.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. To be continued.
Thank you. I appreciate it.